What would you say if I told you there was an answer to world hunger, but it may come at a cost? Would you potentially sacrifice your health so that all babies, children, and families in third world countries can go to sleep with a full stomach? Depending on what you are already eating, you already may be compromising your health. It is important to know about GMOs because your health and the environment are at risk. When I changed my lifestyle and eating habits, it was hard not to just pick up everything that said organic, because even organic foods can contain GMOs. It was tedious, but if I can spend a day shopping for the perfect outfit, then I can spend a few hours improving and maintaining my health. Genetically modified organisms is something that can change the world both positively and negatively. First, I will define GMO and why it's important. Secondly, I will be discussing the positives, and lastly, I'll be discussing the negative. Not many people know what GMOs are or where they come from. They've been around for a very long time, and information on GMOs actually goes back to 30-some odd years ago. What is a GMO? Genetically modified organisms are plants that have been biologically engineered. A study shows at the Food Policy Institute at Rutgers Cook College, they found that only 52% of Americans realize that genetically modified foods are sold in the grocery stores, and only 26% believe that they have ever seen or eaten a genetically modified organism. Experts say that 60 to 70% of the U.S. grocery store foods contain genetically modified organisms. Why is that important? It is important because in America it isn't required to label the modified ingredients, leading people to unknowingly consume things that they may or may not want to eat. People deserve to have the right to vote. Just recently in Washington, they voted on if they wanted the GMOs to be labeled in the grocery store. And with a 52% vote, that came back to not labeling GMOs. All people want is just the chance to be active and be knowing about the current situation in the food industry regarding the U.S. But what about the people that want to get involved but can't? The positive of a GMO is that the malnutrition and vitamin enrichment. Mark Linus, an environmental writer, talks about how biofortification can have positive outcomes in third world countries. There has been a vitamin A deficiency, and biofortification can extract vitamin A out of a plant and implant them into other genetically modified organisms. A study was done with the new orange flesh sweet potatoes in Mozambique and Uganda, and it was quickly picked up by a large number of rural households. The project resulted in 61% of households adopting the vitamin A-rich OFSP to grow in their farms. They were willing to substitute more than 1/3 of their traditional white and yellow sweet potatoes. The level of substitution was enough to push large numbers of children and women over the threshold, ensuring that the daily requirements for their vitamin A has been met. Vitamin A intake increased by 2/3 for older children and nearly doubled for younger children and women by Project N. For children 6 to 35 months who are especially vulnerable, OFSP contributed more than 50% of their total vitamin A intake. Another good thing is the herbicide intolerance. Weed killer tends to kill off more crops, but with the GMO seeds, they have been designed to grow and resist weed killer, killing less crops every year, leading to more crops being distributed throughout the world. But as we all know, where there is good, there is also bad. And the same environmental risk for the herbicide intolerance is that the natural weeds that are no longer growing in non-organic farms have led to the theory of superweeds. A farmer recently said the problem is most pronounced in the southeast, where farmers have been growing Roundup-ready cotton for years. The farmer who grows the genetically modified crops use 25% more herbicides than farmers who use traditional seeds. It's no different than the overuse of antibiotics that has led to the resistance from bugs such as gonorrhea in the past year. This was just a very basic overview of GMOs. Once you start to go deeper, there is much more information depending on the area that you research. I've taken you from the top with the basic definition, followed by the positive and negatives of genetically modified organisms. Truthfully, we will always have the answer to world hunger. And it's not rapidly producing crops to feed millions of people. Timothy Jones, an anthropologist who has studied food waste for the last 10 years, says on average, America wastes about 50% of food-ready harvest every year. Then turn around and spend $1 billion each year of disposing of the 50% of the food that we just wasted. As a nation, we need to look at the bigger picture and cut down on the food we don't need, and send it, give it, and save it for the people who do.